Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bill Lachenmeyer. As Suzanne has said, I'm a recent graduate of the program. I graduated in spring of 2016, so not quite a year ago. I came to the program after a 28-year career in corporate human resources. In that career, I worked in a lot of different industries, and I had experience on 3 continents. I became interested in executive coaching over really a long period of time, over about 10 years, as I hired people to coach executives I was working with and leadership teams I was working with. I became increasingly impressed with the power of executive coaching to help people and to help organizations. I started thinking about applying to the program in really the fall of 2015, and was very impressed with the people that I met at a number of functions that the school offered, and I was delighted to complete the program. We'll talk about it in a little bit in a little while, but one of the great things that's happened since I graduated is that I have formed my own business and doing executive coaching, and I now have a number of paying clients, and I'm, as I said to Suzanne a few moments ago, I'm loving life. Well, as Suzanne said, the capstone of the program is the practicum, and of the 12 people that were in my cohort, I believe there were 3 of us that decided to take on 2 clients. I was one of those people. Most people had 1 client. You start out, essentially, as Suzanne said before, with a chemistry check, and that's essentially a kind of a structured process where you both decide if this relationship can work. Can we work together productively? In my case, those meetings went very well. We decided that we would meet together in person every 2 weeks, so I had it staggered, so essentially 1 time a week I would have a meeting with each client, and those meetings typically lasted about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, I think was common. The first step in that process, once you begin, is this contracting phase, where together you kind of set the boundaries on how you're going to work together, and that has everything to do with how often you're going to meet, how you're going to handle if a session has to be rescheduled, but also kind of the learning elements of it, how you best both work together to accomplish this goal. Very quickly you move into the assessment phase of the practicum, and there's a number of different assessments that we used. In my case, I had 2 each. And then we began the Narrative 360. This is essentially a process where you work with the client to come up with questions that would be very helpful for them to have as you're putting together their development plan. So it's essentially, how do they present in their workplace? How do others see them? I met with a group of about 6 or 7 feedback providers that each client selected. And that was a great experience. You know, there's always the logistics involved with that, but it was really eye-opening how much people cared to give their colleague meaningful feedback. Then you have to synthesize all of that information. Of course, you have to maintain confidentiality as you're doing it, but you're not going to give the client raw data. What you have to do is come to the conclusions. What is meaningful? What are the patterns? And that's a bit of a skill to develop. It took me a little while to really get comfortable with that, but I did. Then, of course, you meet with the client, you present them with the information, and help them process the information. And then it's on to the development plan itself, where you work together to come up with this long-term plan on how you're going to help the client achieve their needs, things that have been pointed out. It's hard to believe how quickly the whole process goes. I know 4 months sounds like a long time, but it really isn't. That's kind of an abbreviated coaching engagement. Most of them would probably be significantly longer than that. So then all of a sudden you're just getting the development plan done, and all of a sudden it's time to talk about the transition to life without a coach. And you know, it really is a special kind of relationship. It's in a way a one-way relationship, but it's a very special one you develop. Both of my clients ended up having their organizations hire me to do work for the organization, and I think that happens. That's not uncommon. But I was hired to do both some training and then also some executive coaching at one of the clients. So it was a great experience. The other thing that is powerful about this experience is you are having this executive coaching experience. At the same time, the other 11 people in the cohort were having theirs. So by the end of the practicum, not only have you become familiar with the two clients that you have had, but you also are familiar with the experience of the other 11 people. So it's like hearing 15 or 18 stories and learning how the executive coaching practicum progressed for each of these people. And we all had different challenges. So it was very very meaningful to me. So it really did help prepare me to start doing this on my own. The other thing that I want to leave with is the note about working with a master coach. You're not doing this alone. Not only do you have the support from the other 11 people in your cohort, but you also have support from Susan Ennis, who's teaching the practicum, but also from the master coach that you are assigned, which is really like having a supervisor. So I was meeting with my master coach regularly, and you know, she would help. Remember, you're beginning this, so you're going to make mistakes. You're going to be unsure of how to handle situations. And my master coach was fabulous and really helped me have a very positive experience. Well, you know, I attended a webinar just like this about a year and a half ago, so I remember the concerns and the thoughts that I had in my mind. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same as all of your thoughts as you're sitting here, but I think what I'll try to do is share how I felt, what I might have been concerned about, and how it ended up. Well, first of all, it had been about 25 years since I was in graduate school. You can notice a couple of gray hairs in that photograph. So I was a little concerned about the technology aspect of the program. How was I going to handle the blended learning? If anybody has that concern, let me tell you that it took about 2 weeks before it felt completely normal. I felt very comfortable. There's great support within the school in the technology area, so that simply wasn't a concern. I wasn't really sure what it's like to be part of a cohort. That was not something that I experienced before this. As I said before, our cohort had a total of 12 people in it. We came to the program with kind of vastly different backgrounds. We had everything from someone that had been a psychologist practicing for 25 years to a few people that had worked in various human resource roles. One person was an attorney. It was just a very diverse but accomplished group of people. And you're going through this intense experience over an 8-month period. You really do become close. There's a lot of exercises that you go through that are giving you experience as a coach, but also as a client. So as Suzanne said, a big part of this program is recognizing that the self is the instrument as an executive coach. So learning what it's like to be a client as well as a coach at the same time. You get a little exposed, but you also really learn about yourself, what makes you tick, and how to help others develop themselves, which was a fabulous experience that I didn't really expect or anticipate. I would say I was a little bit concerned about the weekend in residence. I live in the western part of Massachusetts, about 75 miles from the school. What I found was it really was a non-issue. We were kind of blessed that year with a mild winter, but I also did a little bit of carpooling with another member of the cohort, and that allowed us to become friends, and really the weekend of residence became something you look forward to rather than a drudgery. I would say that The last thing I would say is the experiential learning. You know, you hear about that in the webinars that you attend, but I didn't really appreciate what that meant. But you really do have a nice combination of book learning that gives you the fundamental understandings of the learning models, for instance, or some of the most recent techniques to use, such as the immunity to change, which I'm using, by the way, with a client right now. That is blended with actually practice. So when you are done with this program, you know, you'll be a novice coach, but you will be a coach. You will have experience delivering executive coaching, and you'll be confident in your ability to do that. The last thing that I didn't appreciate as much as I could have, I think, was the value of the threaded conversations. This is essentially a way to simulate being in the classroom as you're finishing assignments. And it was wonderful because it really gives you the opportunity, when you're forced to write something as opposed to just say it while you're sitting in the classroom, you really do tend to spend time thinking and reflecting on the work. So as a result, the comments that the other members of the cohort made tended to be at a very high level. So I think I got a lot out of that as well. So you can tell I'm a big fan of the program. I thought it was fabulous. I highly recommend it.